You're listening to Blue No Buzz, the St. Louis Blues podcast by fans for fans. Thanks for joining us today. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me for episode 2 of the Blue No Buzz podcast. I know that I said I might not release one for another month or so, but I couldn't help myself with the offseason. Even though the Blues haven't made any moves since our last talk, I still wanted to get an episode out just by going over some thoughts that I had on last season, some very original ideas here. So I'm going to go through all the players on the Blues roster and give them a grade for the season based on expectations going into the year and then their performance throughout the season. So super original, I know, and I'm a few months late on these, so you've probably seen everybody else's already. So I'm going to throw mine in the pile with this episode, so might as well get right into it. This episode is going to have grades that I give to players that are goalies and defensemen. So it's just going to be the goalies and defensemen in this one. Future episodes, likely next episode, will be the forwards. So that one will be a lot of fun as well. So first, I'm going to get into goalies. Of course, Jordan Binnington. For each player, I'm going to go over a few stats that I thought were of note along with their grades. So he was 28 and 22 on the season as the starting goalie, had a flat .900 save percentage, and averaged 2.69 goals allowed per game. Now, Binnington is Binnington. He had a rough start to the year, a lot worse than a lot of us were really hoping for, I think. He really turned it around after the Four Nations face-off in the final. He obviously had some ridiculous saves in the overtime to win Canada the gold, and he continued to play at a high level after the Four Nations face-off, which allowed the Blues to make that push for the playoffs. If only he'd played that well all season, who knows where we would have been. But regardless, we know what Binnington is. He's a guy that shows up in those biggest moments, so that's a very valuable trait to have in any player, especially a goalie. Goalies will win you games, win you series, win you cups, and we saw that in 2019 when he took us all the way to the cup. Like I said, he's a clutch player. He lives for the big moments. He had a .900 save percentage. However, he had the highest save percentage in the league when the game was tied. So this is a guy that when the lights are on, when they're at their brightest, when stress is at its highest, this is a guy that shows up and he's going to win you games. So I thought that was interesting. Not a very impressive save percentage overall, but the best in the league when the game was tied. And that's exactly what you want between the pipes if you're a team like the Blues that really depend on that good goaltending, consistent goaltending, because our offense was hit or miss for most of the year. So having a reliable goaltender in between the pipes really helped to steady the team, I believe. He did have a poor first half of the season. I'm the first to admit that. Around the midway point of the year, I was actually one of his biggest haters and doubters. I was really advocating for Joel Hofer to take over the starting position in net. I thought that Hofer had shown enough that we should give him the nod given Binnington's struggles at that point, and the Blues did not do that. They stayed steady with Binnington, stood behind our guy, and obviously Jim Montgomery and Doug Armstrong know a lot more about hockey than me because it paid off really well. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and give Jordan Binnington a B- on the year. He had such a good season last year despite us missing the playoffs that I think a lot of us really expected a bit better from him in the first half of the season, and his struggles did put us behind the pack in the playoff race, but he did make up for it in that last quarter, especially the last third of the season after the Four Nations face-off. So I think he more than made up for it, along with playing really solid in that playoff series against the Jets. He more than earned a B, but I do feel the need to detract a little bit just for that really poor start in the beginning of the year. That moves me right into Joel Hofer, our goalie tandem. I think we have one of the best goalie tandems in the league because Hofer is an absolute stud despite being so young. He was 16-8 last year. He had a .904 save percentage and allowed 2.64 goals on average. So just slightly better stats on paper than Binnington. I think Hofer is, like I said, an absolute stud. He's super young, and I do think he is the future for St. Louis Blues goaltending. However, like Binnington, he did take a small step back in his sophomore season. He had an absolutely stellar 23-24 season, and obviously that's really hard to replicate at such a young age, so I'm not mad about it. It's not like we didn't expect it. I think most people expected Hofer to come back down to earth a little bit, and he certainly did this year. But despite that, he still played excellently. I mean, he's a huge guy, 6'4" in net. He has really learned to play the puck quite well. Obviously, he's learned from the best in the league, Binnington, and his passing behind the net is really good. He can pass it in the middle of the ice through the slot, which gives me a heart attack every single time he does it. But 9 times out of 10, it's going straight into the tape of a Blues player, and they are making a push offensively, and they usually get a decent opportunity with that. I will say that 1 time out of 10 will be a giveaway or a mistake, and that's when other teams can either capitalize on it and score on the mistake by Hofer, or sometimes he'll make a spectacular diving save. Saw that a few times this year. So that's something I would love to see cleaned up a little bit if possible. However, I want him to continue to do that because I think it overall really benefits the team and benefits the offense when he's passing like he did. I will say one thing of note here for Hofer, something that I noticed just based on the eye test, along with this was something that was mentioned online by a lot of Blues fans that I was speaking to. It seemed like the team tended to play better in front of Hofer. When Binnington was in net, it felt like the defense was missing assignments, not reading the offense as well, being a little bit lazy getting back on the back check, a bit lazy on the forecheck. So for some reason, the team tended to play better when Hofer was behind them. People have speculated it's because they have more faith in Binnington to make a crazy save. Other people think that Hofer just has the magic that brings the team up with him. All boats rise with the water. So a lot of speculation about why that could be. At the end of the day, I don't really care, honestly. If the team is playing better in front of Hofer, then that's a good thing, and I think that benefits Hofer long term. Hopefully they can continue to play better in front of him, and they keep playing great in front of him when he takes over that starting position eventually. So for Hofer this year, I went ahead and gave him a B for Hofer for the season. Thought he had a great year. Small step back from last season, but still really excellent in between the pipes, and definitely not wavering at all in my faith of Joel Hofer. We did sign him to, I believe, a 2-year extension just as soon as the offseason started, so we can expect to see him in the next couple years continue to grow, continue to get better, and I can't wait to see what he does. Moving on to defense, we'll start with my personal favorite player. He was who I thought was the Blues' best skater for the year. That is Colton Parayko. Played 64 games, which I'm going to mention games played for all of these players. It is important to note because we did deal with a lot of injuries this year, along with acquiring some players from trades or calling them up from the AHL. So games played is important to note, just considering the sample size and everything. Parayko played 64, so he did have that hip injury. He came out with 16 goals and 36 points in total with a +12. I know that plus minus isn't the end-all be-all of stats, but I do think it's somewhat valuable, so I decided to include it with my analysis here. Colton Parayko had an absolutely career year offensively. I believe I've mentioned that before. His career high previously for one season with goals was 10. He got 16 this year in 2/3 of the games that he usually plays. So an incredible season from Parayko. What can't be said, really? For months at the beginning of the season, he was night in and night out our best skater. At times, it felt like he was really single-handedly keeping our team competitive enough, and he kept us in the hunt enough until the rest of the team woke up and we made that push for the playoffs. But he was just absolutely incredible. He did it on both sides of the ice this year, like I mentioned. he was not only the stellar defenseman that we know and love. We know what to expect out of Colt 55, and that's incredible defense consistently. Just he's our top pair guy. He's incredible. So we know what to expect on the defensive side. The surprise this season was his offensive capability. He really showed his offensive prowess. He would not just hit that ridiculous slap shot that we all know and love from Colt, but he would read defenses really well. He'd know when he should push towards the net. He'd know when he should make a pass. He'd know when he should clear the puck. He was really, really aware of the situation at all times on the ice this year, and he was incredible. It really paid off. You can tell statistically. You can tell just watching the games. He was, in my opinion, like I said, our best skater, our best player for the year as a whole. That being said, I went ahead and gave Colton Parayko an A. His expectations, I think, were pretty high. At least I have really high expectations for Colt after having such a good season last season. So I gave him an A. I think he not only met those high expectations, but he exceeded them. Next up, we have Cam Fowler, the former Duck that was acquired in a trade with Anaheim about a third of the way through the season. He played 68 games in the Blue Note, came up with 9 goals and 40 points, so that would be 31 assists, and finished with a plus-minus of plus 12. Interestingly, Cam Fowler, that trade was hated by Blues fans when it first happened. We acquired him. We thought, here's another old, aging defenseman who is statistically poor. In fact, he was by far statistically the worst defenseman in the league. And as soon as he came to St. Louis and put on the Blue Note, he became a legitimate star. So Army obviously knows more than us. He saw something in Cam Fowler, and he went after it. He was the exact piece that we needed this season to right the ship and to really get a good top pairing. Colton Parayko, obviously, like I said, was the top pairing guy for the entire year. And then we swapped around a few guys, but once we landed on the Cam Fowler-Colton Parayko duo, we never broke that up. They were so good together. I also thought that Cam Fowler was a really effective quarterback on the power play, which is something that we really needed with how poor Falk was playing this year. He was typically our defenseman and quarterback on the power play, and our power play really suffered because of it. I thought Cam Fowler played excellently. He not only knew when to pass, but he knew when to shoot. And a lot of times when he shot on that power play, it either went in or deflected and got an assist from one of the guys in front of the net. So Cam Fowler was incredible as the quarterback. Interestingly, just a few things about his change when he joined the Blues. So he was a minus 36 player last season in the plus-minus, and a plus 19 for the Blues in the time that he was with us, including the playoffs. So all the other stats don't include the playoffs. It's just regular season, but including the playoffs, he was a plus 19 for us. He had 10 points in that Jet series, including 1 goal and 4 assists in a single game in Game 3. 5 points by a defenseman, which set the record for a Blues defenseman. Really incredible stuff. I really do hope that he is kind of a pivotal part of our defensive core for the next few years at least. His 1,000th game in the Winter Classic was one of my favorite moments of the season. Him getting that goal and celebrating, and then when he got the second one is just what a great moment for Cam Fowler in his 1,000th game in the Winter Classic to score 2 goals like that. Really one of my favorite moments of the season, and it happened against the Blackhawks to boot, so can't complain about that. Really loved Cam Fowler this year, and because of that, because of how low the expectations were when we got him, because of how incredible he was once he started playing for us, I give Cam Fowler an A+. I don't think that's even up for debate. He was absolutely incredible. So that will move us on to Philip Broberg. He was one half of the offer sheet boys that we acquired from the Oilers. Doug Armstrong, an absolute masterclass in the offseason, got those 2 for next to nothing. Broberg played 68 games. He had 8 goals and 29 total points for a plus 21. So he had the best plus-minus of any defenseman on the Blues this year, a plus 21 in 68 games. Really impressive stuff. He started the season scoring a decent amount, more than I think most people expected. He then got injured, unfortunately, early in the season, and that obviously really hurt the team. You could tell the defense was really out of whack during the couple months he was out. However, once he returned, it really helped steady that ship, and our defense returned to form. So he really is that presence that helps kind of steady our defense overall on that second pair especially. He and Falk were paired most of the season. They seem to play really well off of each other. Falk, which I'll get into, had a troubling year again. He has a lot of flaws on the defensive and offensive side. However, for some reason, Philip Broberg is able to smooth those out beautifully. So Falk looks like a legitimate defenseman when he's playing with Broberg. Can't say the same about when he's playing with other players, but Philip Broberg and Falk just have that synergy that make them really valuable together. And I think Broberg is obviously the biggest part of that. He's such a reliable defenseman. He reads plays on ice like a veteran, but he is only 24 years old. I cannot wait to see how he develops, how good he will be in a few years. I think he's going to be an absolute menace on the ice. I could see him in contention for a Norris one year, but I just want to make sure, first things first, we need to lock him down for a good 4+ years at least. So hopefully Army is working on that. We can get both him and Holloway, the offer sheet boys, locked in long term, because they were a huge part of the Blues' success this season. And because of all of that, because of the inexperience that he had going into the year, I think a lot of people had moderately high expectations for him. He still blew those out of the water. I gave him a solid A. He had a great season, and I think he's going to be even better next year. That moves us into Justin Falk. So Justin Falk played 78 games. He had 4 goals and 32 total points for a -9. Given what Justin Falk is being paid and the role that he is supposed to play for this team, he had yet another really disappointing season. The standout for him, personally, that I saw was how poor offensively he was. He's supposed to be our power play quarterback that can read the defense and strike and make plays and score on that PP when necessary, but he just was not that guy this year. I hope that he is not on the power play unit next season. I hope he's not on the first or the second unit. We saw how good Fowler, Broberg, Parayko, and hopefully Mailloux will be on that power play. So hopefully all of those guys will be given a shot and given extended time as the quarterback before Falk will be, just given what he showed us this year. I was very disappointed. He did play okay when he was paired with Philip Broberg, but just really poor season from him again. And I'm going into it, I'm laying into Falk. I know that everybody does that. He's kind of the whipping boy right now for the Blues, but he was really bad. So because of that, I decided to give him a D+. I didn't want to fail him because he did have that saving grace with Broberg, but my goodness, the amount of times he was caught puck watching in the crease, in the slot, not being able to clear the puck, or when he does clear, icing the puck unnecessarily, just had me scratching my head. I was so confused by his play most games, so that's why I gave him a D+. All right, next up we have Ryan Suter, the veteran that was signed to a 1-year deal in the offseason before this year. He played a full 82 games. He has, I believe, the second longest Ironman streak going right now, active in the NHL. He had 2 goals, 15 total points, and was a +7. So on paper, a modest but decent season for Ryan Suter. However, I will say he stepped up big when he was needed. Early in the season, he was playing extended time on that first pair defense and was more than serviceable. So he was paired with Parayko, going up against the youngest, the fastest, the best of every other team, and he was more than serviceable, I believe. He was decent. He wasn't excellent, but he was decent, especially for a 40-year-old guy. At one point, he was leading the team in time on ice per game with well over 20 minutes, which is just ridiculous. So I thought he had a good year. That first third of the season, we owe it to Suter for stepping up and being able to play those minutes. The gas he had in the tank was huge for us, and I'm just really happy that we got to see that. Despite some rumors of being kind of a locker room cancer, based on all the information that we have, that I have seen, it seems like he was a great presence in the Blues locker room this season, especially for the young guys on the team. He really helped to kind of toughen them up a bit, show them the ropes. He consistently praised Schen's leadership, which I think really helped boost fans' confidence in our captain, which for some of us had begun to waver at points during the year. But Schen's leadership was consistently praised by Suter, which when it's coming from a guy that's played as many seasons as that, definitely means something. For Suter, I love his play style. He's the kind of guy that you hate if he's on the other team, but you love him if he's on your team. He's always in the middle of scrums. He's protecting the goalie. He knows exactly what he can and can't get away with, and he rides that line perfectly. He is a bit of an instigator, but he's the best kind. He's a great kind of player that you want on your team, especially in big, stressful moments. He's that veteran presence. So I was really happy with Suter this year. Once we dropped him down to that second or the third pairing, I believe is what he ended up on, he was a really good third-pair defenseman. 40 years old, and at the price we're paying him, really cannot complain. So I went ahead and gave Suter a B for the year. Wasn't expecting much. He stepped up big when needed. He wasn't crazy good, but he was absolutely serviceable. He was good enough. And that is all that we were looking for on the defensive end this year because, my goodness, we really struggled at times. All right, the next to last defenseman that we will look at is Nick Leddy. Played 31 games, had 2 goals, 5 total points. Obviously, the goals and points are really not anything to write home about. He did only play 31 games, like I mentioned. He was injured for most of the season with a long-term lower body injury, and when he finally did return, I think it was pretty clear that injury was still bothering him. I do believe, like I mentioned in the first episode, that Leddy gets a little bit too much hate from the fan base, but I definitely understand why people are so frustrated. He's a good skater. He's good at getting the puck out of the defensive zone, but he is not good at defensive breakaways. So if he is in a 1v1 on the defensive end or a 2v2 or Lord forbid a 1v2, the amount of times I saw him either get absolutely dusted or just fall over and lose his footing for a guy with typically good skates was really frustrating. So Nick Leddy, not great in those situations, and I see why people were ready to move on from him. At the end of the day, we did put him on waivers at the end of the season, and he was picked up by the San Jose Sharks. So him and Falk, I feel like, could be directly pegged as responsible for a whole lot of goals against this season for the Blues, at least in the games that they were playing in. And a lot of that was just due to blown coverage, not being able to read the offense, and puck watching. Especially if there was a player with the puck behind the net. Bennington obviously can't see them. If there's a guy in front of the net in the crease, you got to get on that man. And Nick Leddy and Justin Falk, to a lesser extent, just would not do that. They were caught puck watching so much. It was very frustrating. But don't have to worry about yelling at Nick Leddy anymore. He was picked up by the Sharks, so we will see him next season. Hopefully we can pick up a win against him, but I wish Nick Leddy the best. I am still a fan of him, and I hope he plays good for the Sharks. Because of, the injury, the expectations and everything going into the year, I give Nick Leddy a C-. I know some people might say that's a little bit generous. I think it might be a little bit generous, but you know what? Sue me, I'm a Nick Leddy fan. Just wanted to give him a small shout out in his last season as a Blue. So that moves us into the last defenseman. There was a minimum of 30 games played, so that's why not every single defenseman was discussed, like P.O. Joseph and Perunovic and Kessel. So they needed to play 30 games. Tyler Tucker was the last defenseman that did reach that mark. He played 38 games, had 3 goals and 7 points. I just want to say I absolutely love Tyler Tucker. He is a big guy, he's got a big body, and is more than willing to throw it around and lay those huge hits when needed. He was surprisingly effective offensively. Even in the postseason, he has a wicked slap shot that he is definitely not afraid to unload at any opportunity. If he has a line of sight to the net, he is letting that slap shot go, and it creates opportunities. Either it goes straight into the net or it's deflected off the goalie's pad, and hopefully we have a guy in the crease and it gets knocked in. Saw that multiple times this year. So Tyler Tucker, that's what we need more of. The amount of games where I was screaming, shoot the puck. We'd have eight shots on goal in the third period. Tyler Tucker is not afraid to do that, and I think he was kind of a fan favorite because of that. Not only because of that, but also he is not afraid to fight. Tyler Tucker is kind of an old school player. He's a bit of an enforcer. If someone went after one of our guys, you can bet Tyler Tucker would be going after him on his next shift. Just kind of an interesting stat that I saw when I was looking at his season overview. He racked up 55 penalty minutes in just 38 regular season games. The vast majority of those were for fighting. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but this guy was fighting every other game. He was winning most of the fights. Absolutely love to see it. It would get the crowd into it. It would get the team riled up, and that kind of energy is really what you want, especially for a team that I feel like plays off of the morale and the energy that they bring on the ice. So for a young team like them, having a guy going out there and getting the guys excited is a very valuable player. His injury at the end of the season was really scary. He kind of fell backwards. His knee bent in a way that knees are not supposed to bend, and he was basically immediately announced out for the rest of the season, which at that point was only about a week or two. But it was a really scary injury. It's concerning. I do expect that he will be back to 100% for the start of next season. Don't have any reason to doubt that based on the information that has been released about him. However, it's something that I think I and many Blues fans will be keeping an eye on. Hopefully he can return and be that same guy that we all love, going around throwing big hits, throwing checks, and getting into fights. So hopefully he can do that, and I would love to see him be a huge piece of our young defensive core moving forward. Looking at our D, got guys like Broberg and Tucker, these young guys, Mayu as well, that's coming in next season. So we're starting to look young, look tough. I think there's a lot to be excited about, both on the defensive end for the Blues and in net with the goalies, like we mentioned. For Tyler Tucker this year, absolutely no expectations. He wasn't a star, but he came in and quickly became a fan favorite because of the way he played, and because of that, I gave him a B+. I'm really looking forward to seeing Tyler Tucker develop, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next season in the Blue Note. So that wraps up all of the players that I'm going through. For episode 3, I will be discussing the forwards and going through and analyzing them in a really similar way. So that one will be hopefully coming out in the next few weeks. Again, I don't have an exact schedule with the off season. Cannot wait for the season to start so we can kind of jump into some actual analysis. But until then, I'll continue to try to create some content and do what I can to analyze at least what we can, which is last season. So a lot to be excited about for Blues fans. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Go Blues.